in this house, the most dire, horrible events took place.
Watching scenes of violence, watching scenes of transgression, to watching scenes of horror. There's an enormous amount of sort of abattoir of excess.
Good evening, chat. How are you doing? It is the 90th episode of Double Feature Horror Show, and I still do not know how to let the sound kind of fade out on the intro. I haven't worked that out yet, but we've got time. We've got time. Maybe I'll sort it for the 100th. I hope you're well. It's good to see regular people in chat. I hope you're looking forward to this. I think this should be a fun one. This has been on the to-cover list for a while. Can I do deep, ranging analysis? Not massively. Do I just love this film? Yes, absolutely. I have no real good reason for covering Tales from the Crypt Demon Knight, other than I really enjoy it. It's an absolute hoot, and I never tire of watching it. I'm also joined by Shrouded Hand. How are you doing, Shrouded?
Hello. All right, yeah, I'm doing good, thanks.
I'm glad to hear it. Is this a bit of a cult favourite for you?
You know what? I watched this years ago, and I really wasn't looking forward to watching it again because I just remembered not enjoying it. And then I watched it, and I must have been thinking of a completely different film. I'm sure I've seen this before, but it was nothing like I remember, and I really enjoyed it. So it wasn't a cult classic of mine, but yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by my false memory, I suppose.
It can happen. I mean, in terms of seeing it again, you know.
Yeah, I've got a picture of a movie in my mind, and I've got no idea what it was, and I'm sure it involved a demon knight, but it wasn't the movie that I watched, so I don't know what I was thinking of, but it wasn't this. And it was.
Was it Legion by any chance?
Legion.
It's like almost the exact same film.
I've got an image in my head of a woman in a house. It's pretty much just one woman, and then there's like a demon knight coming out at her in the house, and it's. I don't know what I'm thinking of, but that's the image I had in my head when I was thinking of this movie.
Yeah, possibly something very different there.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm thinking
well,
of.
I'm glad. Well, first off, thanks for giving it a go, even though you were like expecting something absolutely terrible. You know?
Yeah. Well, it must have been when I was in my early 20s watching this. I remember like the Sci-Fi Channel used to do like a horror movie evening, and this must have been back early noughties, sometime like that. So it's been a while since I've watched this, but yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by the fact that it wasn't the movie I was thinking of.
I'm very glad to hear that. All right, well, folks, I had something else planned for the topic tonight, but I decided you'll hate me for it. So I'm going to do that topic next week because handily the Scream 6 teaser came out. And we're keeping it light this week. We'll have a quick discussion of Scream 6 teaser. I'll find out where Shrouded is on that franchise. But before we get into that, you know, we're on YouTube. We'll do all the standard stuff, you know, things that help the channel grow. And it's been very nice to see numbers going up recently. Been very happy about that. And things that help it grow, as you know, it is interacting with the videos. That is what Susan wants everyone to do. Otherwise, she thinks you don't go for it. So keeping the chat being nice and lively is fantastic. Not only does it sort of send the signal to YouTube to recommend this, but also I get to read what you're thinking, which always helps the conversation going on here. I'm seeing there's quite a diverse response to this film, so that should be fun. But otherwise, all the usual stuff you know to do. So it's liking the video, it's subscribing, my personal favourite thing, sharing news of the channel to people who you think might appreciate it. If you have friends who like horror movies and they're watching a few YouTube horror channels and they want some, and you think they might appreciate someone who is massively out of date with everything covered, but also spammed by porn bots. Thank you. Crikey, that was quick. Oh dear. But also, if they might sort of want to move away from the standard YouTube horror channels and just maybe, you know, kind of like that Ryan Hollinger vibe, but longer and able to pronounce however, that sort of thing. I say that as if I don't really like Ryan's videos anyway. Then yes, please do recommend the channel. And if you want to go that one step further, if you've been wondering what can you get that special someone in your life, you can gift them a membership to this channel or support me on Subscribestar. That's about all the shilling I can stand to do. Oh, it's so unnatural. It's just it's very weird trying to shill when you're English. I can't. Never mind. I need that crime guy back to do all the shilling. I've got to subcontract it to him. There was one other bit of channel news I was going to drop there. I was going to get a video out this week, and it is a massive effort of editing. It is somewhat huge, and unfortunately, Susan has absolutely smacked this into the ground with copyright claims. And it's going to take me quite a while to clear them. I'm going to be fighting them. Hopefully I will get it out, but this is the video on the Craft Legacy. I covered this, well, I watched it for a video about testing whether woke horror movies would be predictable if you could just watch the trailer and guess everything that's going to happen. And I watched this as part of that, and I thought, this film needs a deep analysis. And it took me 1 hour and 42 minutes to describe everything. And I was keeping it concise, guys. I can't explain how bad this film is.
I think you can tell just by looking at that picture.
I know.
Sometimes you just see an image and you just think, yeah, that's going to be bad. I'm going to hate that.
Do you have fond memories of the original Craft?
Yeah, the original one was pretty good from what I remember. This I wasn't even aware. What is this? Is this like a modern thing?
Yeah, I think they just dumped it because it came out in 2020, and I never saw it get much promotion. Like, they did drop it on Netflix eventually, and just I never saw it get much fanfare, and I can see why. It's
yeah, you can just, I don't know what it is. It's the facial expressions. I think it's sort of like, it's almost as if you can tell just from that one image they're kind of looking at the audience with the kind of disdain that the movie probably has for them.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Anyway, it's not just bad, it's fascinatingly bad and worthy of analysis. So I have done that. It's 1 hour and 42 minutes. As Susan is smacking it down, it's probably going to come out in the new year. So the next video is going to be the Christmas special. But what I decided I would do is I will be sharing it with members on Subscribestar and on here. So if that is perhaps, I feel so dirty shilling like this. If you are interested in supporting the channel and helping me fund the more ambitious projects, then you will also get things like this early if you to enjoy during the Christmas break. Oh, this is shill-tastic tonight. I feel very dirty doing this. Is there anything you would like to promote yourself, Shrouded?
We are just my YouTube channel. I've got a video I'm working on. I've been working on it for the last 2 weeks, and hopefully it's going to be out over the weekend. And it's been one that I've been. Oh, it's just the research took so long. It's about. I don't know if you're familiar with the book Walden 2.
Wait, no, Walden 2?
Yeah, basically the psychologist wrote a book about his perfect utopia society, and then various people have tried to make it happen in real life, and one person, it didn't have very good consequences. And it's just about this school that opened based on the vision of this utopian novel. And yeah, I've just been, it's taken me so long to do. I try and get a video out every week, but this one's taken me like 2 weeks to get finished. So yeah, hopefully there'll be a video out soon. And that's all I've got to shill, really. That and my Twitter. People can follow me on Twitter at Shrouded Hand, because I've only recently got onto Twitter and I've only got like a few followers. So if you want to give me more followers on Twitter, that'd be appreciated.
It's kind of nice seeing your artwork as well, like that other side. It's quite cool.
Oh yeah, I've been posting some artwork and stuff on there. Yeah, but yeah, I'm not very good at shilling my own stuff either, to be honest. So.
Don't worry. I
think it is just a British thing. We just feel a bit
I
awkward about. Oh, check me out if you want. Yeah.
Yeah, we just can't do it, can we? All right. Well, I'll spare us both the torment. I will vouch for Shrouded. I'm really interested in that one. That sounds fantastic. Actually, I like the deep dive research. I gotta respect that.
Right.
Okay, so that should come out. I'm hoping the Christmas special. It's coming out next week, and as a little treat, I'm thinking Monday I'm gonna have waifu read you some M.R. James. Who has a bunch of Christmas ghost stories. So I think that they'll be kind of cozy. But that is enough shilling, because you came here to hear about Demon Knight and the Scream 6 teaser. So we will get into that, guys. We will get straight into that. All right. So as a little bit of a lead-in, Shrouded, what are your feelings about Scream at the moment?
I'm not very up to date on it. I think I've only seen up to the second one, so I don't know. I don't know what's going on with the franchise.
That must have been so confusing.
Yeah, I saw this and I thought, oh, it's in a city. It's yeah, I don't know what's going on. So is this like watching this trailer? Can you infer things about the other movies, or is this just a standalone thing, or is it?
Yeah, it's tricky. I've stayed away from all the leaks. There have been people getting some of the, set photos, doing a little revelation, trying to piece that together. I kind of stay out of that, to be honest. I think you form... You can get a skewed image of things, and I think it's kind of more interesting to let the film come out and maybe look at that stuff later.
Yeah, but
when you're doing an analysis.
If you've seen like the other films, like up to Scream 5, are you watching this trailer thinking, oh yeah, that follows on from that movie, or does this look like it's own?
No, you could very easily watch just Scream and then Scream 2022 and then this, I think, but obviously they kind of want you to do the whole run. So Scream 2022 to catch you up was what they call a legacy sequel, which I think they used to call a reboot. And weirdly, it's Scream 4 that really started that trend, I would say, of instead of just trying to do a remake, you do a sequel, which is basically a remake, but has a tie-in to the original characters and kind of has them hand over to a new cast of characters.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Scream pretty much, Scream 4 started that thing, generally, I'll say. So Scream 5 was doing your kind of back to basics thing. We're going to go back to the original location, keep it minimal, and try and do the stripped down version of Scream and take away some of the heavier lore that builds up around a whole bunch of sequels. And they did that, I would say, very well, not perfectly, but very well. For me, I know it gets disputed. I'm quite soft on that film. But this one is trying to do something a little bit different. It's moving everyone into the city, like basically everything except, how can I say? Most of them are centered around the town of Woodsboro. And then the second one moved everyone off into a college. And then the third one happened around Hollywood. And then it was returning to Woodsboro for 4 and 5. This is again sending everyone out into the world, but it is kind of doing that movie thing where everyone departs from the hometown to the same place.
Yeah, like Saved by the Bell when they go off to college.
Unexpected Saved by the Bell college years reference, absolutely. Didn't Saved by the Bell also have like a slightly more adult one where it was like Saved by the?
I don't know. I don't know.
Like I'm not saying like adult,
an
but it was
erotic
just like,
reboot.
oh no.
I didn't. I didn't Screech do some kind of porn tape.
He did.
Is that what you're thinking of? Maybe.
No. I'm
Screech
just
doing a Dirty Sanchez.
I'm just remembering. I've got this weird memory that Saved by the Bell did this like slightly more college-aged thing.
Maybe.
But that could be absolutely.
Maybe
what do they call it? Mandela effect. Like I've just imagined this.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I'm
getting like me remembering Demon Knight.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
Possibly I'm just mingling like memories of what's her name in Showgirls. You know, she was one of the girls in Saved by the Bell, and then was in that Paul Verhoeven masterpiece. Mentioned by name in Scream 2, I recall. Oh dear. Yeah, Maverick, you're thinking of Saved by the Bell, the new class. Oh, you can smell the stink of the 90s on this, can't you? Oh dear. So basically what this one is doing is it's moving everyone off. They're going into the big city and trying something very new. All we have in this teaser, as you saw, is footage of the basically the 4 main characters from Scream 2022. I'll just call it Scream 5 for ease. They're in this carriage. Everyone's dressed up for Halloween. It is Easter eggs galore. I will go left to right here. You've got that wolf thing is the mask from the rather good found footage film Creep, Ghostface himself. Then you've got a Cenobite. Go to the right again. I'm not sure what that thing is, but the girl is meant to be the lead character from, oh crikey, what's it called? Oh gosh darn it.
Midsommar.
No, it's oh dear, what was oh, this is driving me mad. Hang on, I'm going to find it. It's a director's film. Ready or Not. There we go. Sorry, guys. It takes me a while. So it's the lead character from Ready or Not, starring Samara Weaving, who is going to be in this film, and it's a film from the directors. You also go left one more, and you've got the classic Jason mask, which I think obviously we're meant to think here Jason Takes Manhattan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking of with the city.
I think it's an interesting one. I think there are challenges in doing it because, I mean, you'll notice that horror set in the city is pretty darn rare.
Yeah, it's hard to do though, isn't it? Because it's, I think it's not a scarier situation, is it? As being trapped in a house or in a forest or something like that. It's, there's too many people around. It's hard to do. I think this setting's quite an interesting one on the subway. Being trapped on a subway with all these people around you, and there's a killer among them. It's a good setting.
It has the option for the kind of, it could be a good scene. I mean, we remember from Scream 2, the opening was Jada Pinkett Smith, who is going to turn up in tonight's film, getting stabbed to death in a cinema. In front of the audience, and the audience thought it was the gag. So Scream has done this thing before where you can do something very public. and there's a sense of helplessness in front of the crowd that is,
Yeah.
pretty darn cool, to be honest.
And you've seen all these like real life footage of people getting beaten up and attacked on subway trains, and other people are just sort of standing around, not really doing anything. So it's quite believable that something like that could happen, and the other people would just watch on or think it was just a gag or something.
It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I thought of that as well, that it's bringing that element in, but I almost wonder if that's quite a serious strain of horror. If it's bringing in ideas about the bystander effect, about
Yeah.
the kind of horrors that are seen in open air in the city, that people accept as normal, like that is a rich vein for exploration. It's certainly got story possibilities, but it's a pretty darn dark thing to explore, to be honest.
Yeah. But are they still doing like I know you spoke about like the horror outfits. So are they still doing like the sort of meta thing where it's almost like the kills themselves are taken out of, they're kind of a comment on tropes in horror films? Like, could this scene be, a comment on some other horror trope?
Yeah, could it be referencing something else? Well, maybe. I mean, they're still very much using various justifications to have someone deliberately trying to recreate horror kills and aware of horror movies. So they're absolutely still doing that.
Yeah.
This, all the costumes is there for a sort of, it doesn't bother me. It's, it's a nice little Easter egg. It's a bit obvious, but in terms of a specific reference, I'm not really getting anything. I mean, you've got kills on subway trains in Joker, which is far removed from this. You've got scenes, you've got attacks in a subway in Midnight Meat Train, most obviously, and Jason Takes Manhattan Again. But I think they're probably moving away from that. But I'm wondering how they deal with the difficulties of, how can I say, it's kind of the paradox of the city, isn't it? Everyone is surrounded but isolated. You're going to have to deal with the issue of like your ghost face killer, your masked killer is going to be on cameras everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it'd be interesting if they go along the route of, like I say, when you've seen all these real life footage of, attacks, and just when you've seen like these like street scenes in cities where it looks like it's just decayed. There's all like homeless people in the streets and all these camps, and just it looks like there's a lot of like drug addicts and people with mental health problems just all over the streets in certain cities where it all just looks like it's gone downhill. If it, it could be interesting if it was like a commentary on that sort of aspect of life. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's relatively untouched, to be honest. It's underexplored, and if you think about it, how can I say? Forgive me, folks, this might sound familiar to you. There's a trend in horror in where it locates the scares, and it has increasingly moved horror closer to home. So you start off with, we're traditionally in the 30s, we're doing gothic horrors. It's happening in a far off time, a fantasy land, Dracula's castle, dark Romanian woods, far, far away from you. And then it moves, into your country in the near history. It's been far off. It's happening in your country, but hundreds of years ago, it's still fantasy creatures. And then in the 60s, with Peeping Tom, Psycho, etc., Village of the Damned, you've got more of a mad scientist vibe. And then the horrors are more human. They're closer to you. They're looking like they're in streets you've walked down. And then eventually, you're hitting one of the big changes in Halloween and Black Christmas in 1974 and 1978. The horrors in the suburbs, the classic middle-class train. But maybe that's a bit outdated now. And to be close to home, horror needs to be in the city.
Yeah, that's a good theory.
I think it's possible, but it might raise some awkward questions. And I suppose what you're saying about that footage, yeah, we have seen so much footage of cities looking like war zones and just crimes
Yeah.
in the street. If we go with the analysis that horror cinema will reflect our subconscious fears, you start to, then maybe we will see a lot more films trying to say the city's unsafe.
Yeah.
It's fruitful, it's dangerous territory, it's incredibly current.
Do we know what city it was? I couldn't really tell from the intro.
I believe it's meant to be New York.
Yeah.
And we are inevitably going to get reference. They're going to have to talk about Jason Takes Manhattan. But oh, that was a weird film. That was a very weird one. Yeah. So I think if you don't have the familiarity with Scream, I won't press you on it. I suppose it should be interesting. Is it just generally was the series not your thing, or
I like the first one, and then I don't know if the second one just didn't strike me that much, and then when the third one came out, it just passed me by, and then after that, I just didn't watch any of the others because it was just like, well, I haven't seen the third one, so I didn't bother. But yeah, I like the first one. It was good. My memories of the second one mostly come from that, that parody, the Scary Movie. I like
Scary Movie is unequivocally good horror analysis.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking of the bit where they're in like the bathroom stall, and like
yeah,
and I'm thinking of the kill, and all I can think of is the Scary Movie scene. So that's like it's like supplanted my memory of Scream 2 with scenes from Scary Movie. So
yeah. I was trying to get a clip from it. I was looking for Matthew Lillard as Stu in Scream saying, "But I'm sorry, folks, but wait, there's more." And I was looking for it. I was like, "Did I miss it?" And I realized, no, he never says that. I'm thinking entirely of Scary Movie, and yet it's supplanted my memory.
That's a sign of a good parody, though.
It is. Yeah. Holy. These are good points. You're making me think a bit of Jacob's Ladder there. The way the backgrounds would be subtly corrupting, and even you'd have crowds of people, but they would be distorted. You're making me think of that a little bit. Yeah.
A movie I've recently watched is Chud. Have you ever heard of that film?
That's like the 80s classic, isn't it? It's got the manhole cover.
And that's really like Urban Decay. And I'm thinking of that because back in the 80s, New York had that sort of image, didn't it? I can't remember if it was set in New York, that film, but the cities, these grimy sort of unsafe cities with homelessness and drugs and all this stuff going on under the surface, and then they kind of got cleaned up, through the 90s into the noughties, and then it's like recently it's sort of started to go back to that grimy sort of 80s vibe. Maybe that's why we're seeing a return to the horror of the city in the movie. I don't know.
Yeah, it's tricky because there's a feedback loop, and I feel like the movies that come out they'll reflect reality, but sometimes they'll project a reality. Sometimes you will get sort of like how can I say, like a range of unrealistically happy images to reflect a sort of brighter time, and then people start thinking that time was generally more prosperous.
Yeah.
And then it can go the other way. So I almost feel like the movies project quite a positive view of the cities, but social media has actually just let people upload their own footage that's really undermined that image.
Yeah, but they didn't. I mean, all this footage of all like the homeless people and stuff, it wasn't that bad, was it? In like 2010, it wasn't as bad as it is now, or is it?
Oh, no,
was that the case? As it got, as like life in a city got worse in the last like 10 years or so, I'm sure.
I would say so. I mean,
I mean, I don't live in any city, so I can't say for sure. But it feels like maybe it is just because there's more footage of it coming out. But
maybe, I don't know, minor deep lore on proper horror show. I did move out of the big city. It got a bit stabby and shooty. Once they
yeah,
upgraded to shootings in my area, I was like, yeah, I might move out. But that's possibly that's possibly a bit too much deep lore. So I will say I'm interested. I certainly want more films to look at horror in the city, and I think we're due an update. Jacob's Ladder was excellent. We are due more stuff, but mindful of the time, I think we might move on now, if that's cool.
yeah, cool. Let's do it.
All right, lovely. I also say hi to TCG as I saw him in the chat. I hope you're good, man. I hope you are
Hey, crying
doing
guy.
well. All right, let's kick it off. Where are this is such schlock. Okay, Demon Knight from 1995. This, to tell you very quickly, tell you what, I'll do a little bit of the production. And Shrouded, I'm going to drop the Pint of Guinness challenge on you for a bit.
Okay.
So you can prepare yourself. I'll just talk a little bit about the production. This had a very difficult time coming into production. They were working on it 10 years before it actually came out. And it was a spec script that was just going around. It wasn't even related to the Tales from the Crypt series that had started running in the late 80s. And Tales from the Crypt story was adapting things from EC Comics, always aiming for this, how can I say, lurid vibe, terrible humor, knowingly lowbrow, and kind of gloriously schlocky. They would have your classic grim morality tale, with a sort of wink at the camera. So we're going to teach you a good moral lesson and absolutely savor the horrific end that someone comes to for being immoral. That was their vibe. They are glorious. They are very they're very of a time, basically. One of the weirdest things is so many massive A-list celebrities were in Tales from the Crypt episodes. I'm actually I want us to do a bit of we're going to have a bit of a trawl through them at some point. You know, basically, I'm just going to say we'll do 3 episodes and we'll cover that in one stream because I want people to get a flavor of it. But we're talking Tom Cruise, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Whoopi Goldberg. They've all been in it. Demi Moore was in it. You know, so many people. And actually, 2 of the stars of this film were also in Demon Knight. I think probably more of them, but I just looked at William Sadler, who I think a lot of you are going to know best from Shawshank Redemption. But big character
He's in
actor.
loads of stuff, him, isn't he? He's been in stuff since
everywhere.
like the 50s or something, that guy. If I'm
Yeah,
thinking
everywhere.
the right guy. Yeah.
William Sadler is our lead. He's Breaker. Possibly, were you thinking of
Oh no, yeah, I'm thinking of
the other guy, the old guy, right?
Yeah.
Dick Miller.
I'm really bad with names of characters in movies and names of celebrities, so yeah, I'm thinking of the old guy. He's been in absolutely tons of stuff.
Yeah, Dick Miller. Don't worry.
Dick
Look,
Miller,
you're
that's
on
the
the right
guy.
stream here. You know we will happily refer to someone as lead female and protagonist because we can't remember the character name.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
So, excuse me. So William Sadler was in this. You know him from Shawshank Redemption. You'll also know him from Outer Limits. Every series has to do the I Have a Robot Girlfriend episode. And in the Outer Limits, it was him. He got a hot robot girlfriend. And in this, he's our character, our main character. But quite interestingly and quite sweetly, William Sadler was also the main guy in the very first episode of Tales from the Crypt. I think I saw Murgoot sharing that. Was it Murgoot? Did you notice that originally? Because I swear I saw someone pick that up. Yeah, he played an executioner who enjoyed his job rather a lot and went a bit vigilante. So it's quite nice. He's in the first episode of Tales from the Crypt, and he's in their first feature film. Billy Zane was also in an episode of Tales from the Crypt for the episode. I wanted to say Well Steamed Hams because the internet has broken me, but his episode was called Well Cooked Hams. State of me, honestly, guys. Yeah. So, there is basically a mass of character actors in this. You are treated, absolutely spoiled, with people that you will look at and say, oh, hang on, who's that guy? What's he been in? Yeah, the whole film. Anyway, as I was saying, Tales from the Crypt was doing really well, and they got the attention to do a feature film. They were passing around a whole load of ideas. They're trying to get the money together. Joel Silver, questionable producer that he is, originally tried to launch this as the second of a trilogy of films. The short story of it is very little worked. They eventually got a trilogy, but rather messily. So instead of the planned one, we got a later release called Bordello of Blood, like about 6 years after this. And then much later than that, we got a shorter, very low budget film called Ritual. I don't have a massive fondness for the other ones, really just for Demon Knight, which is a bit of a shame because I feel this was
I didn't know there
delight.
was a second one, like, until I looked it up for the, I was looking this movie up. I didn't realize Bordello of Blood existed.
Yeah, they were trying to make it a thing, basically, of, you got this really successful show. Why can't you release movies? But they just, I can't get my head around it. I can't find out why, but just so many of them did not go into production.
Yeah, because I looked it up because at the end of the credits, the Crypt Keeper comes up and goes, "Look out for the next movie," and he says some title, and I looked up that movie. They never made it.
No.
So he announces the next movie at the end of this, and it didn't go into production.
Hubris. Anyway, so it bounced around a few people. Joel Silver had enough money to sort of get the wheels rolling again, but it originally was not connected to Tales from the Crypt. But they decided the vibe was essentially right for them. They adapted it. You got Ernest Dickerson directing it, and this messed me up. The guy who directed this also directed a lot of The Wire. This makes no sense to me whatsoever. Ernest Dickinson, director of Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight, and The Wire, and like season finale episodes. He is a big name in it. It's absolutely bizarre. The writers, I think, are a little bit less noteworthy. That's basically a screenwriting duo called Ethan Reith and Cyrus Voris. They went to the same art school as Ernest Dickerson. That's New York's Tisch School of the Arts. But this would be probably the highest profile thing, although they did also do the rather bizarre show Sleeper Cell, if anyone remembers that. Is that ringing any bells? That was in 2004.
Rings a bell. I'm thinking of the computer game. It was
a show about
Splinter Cell or something I'm thinking of.
Yeah, no, Sleeper Cell was a very 2000 show. It wanted to do something about the very current topic of terrorism, but they had to make sure. How can I say? They made sure. What's the way of saying this? They basically Netflix cast the terrorists. It was not exactly representative. It was very weird and honestly a kind of gripping, schlocky show, but very, very odd. I think they were just very concerned about the sensitivities of making it, but it resulted in a very weird show. Anyway, so I think this is a bit of an unusual high point for the writing team, unless you count Chow Yun Fat and Stifler's appearance in Bulletproof Monk. A quite weird callback, I admit there. And it's J828. Yes, you have. That was one of the other things I was looking. He's done a lot of action as well, and one of them was Bones with Snoop Dogg. If only. If only. Oh goodness, I'm afraid we're probably not covering that on screen. Oh dear.
Is it a horror?
Yeah, it's a horror with Snoop Dogg.
I'm gonna check that out. I like a random Snoop Dogg appearance in things.
Yeah, I want to say he appeared in there was a black horror anthology series called Tales from the Hood, and I believe he was in it, but I have not been able to get a copy of it.
I don't think I've ever seen a horror film with Snoop Dogg in it.
Yeah, I really want to get my hands on it because I think there are 2 of them, and I think they sound really fun. But another time, maybe I'll get my hands on it. So anyway, yes, as is standard in Hollywood, this script bounced around. It was eventually passed to Dixon and made into a Tales from the Crypt movie, and given a little bit of a flourishing to fit their model. For instance, one of the weird things in this, one of the kind of delights, is that you have that it starts with the TV intro that is so well known. Absolutely iconic TV intro going through a graveyard into a creepy haunted house and into the basement. Absolutely epic. Yeah. And then starts with a very adorable parody of its own episode. So it basically does run itself like a feature-length episode of the show, which is possibly quite jarring in a cinema, but I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I like the bookend on this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was fun.
It is not confused about what it is. Let's say that for sure. There was a question that came in actually. Do you want to take that one, Shrouded?
Shrouded Hand. What do you think of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre films and Ed Gein? I really like the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I know like the sequels are kind of cult classics, but they never really struck me that much. You know, the one with like Chop Top and stuff in. Which one's that? Like Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 or 3? I
think he's in 2. Isn't Chop Top played by Bill Pullman? Have I got that completely wrong?
Yeah,
I might be wrong. I don't know.
That's one of them cult classics that everyone loves, and it never really struck me that much. But I really loved the first one, and I like the story of Ed Gein. That's when I was first getting into like serial killers and things. I was like taping documentaries and things off the TV, and Ed Gein was one of the ones that I think first sort of got me interested in like the true crime topic. Yeah, I really like that whole story. But yeah, the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre I really like, and I kind of want to watch it again now that you've mentioned it, because I haven't seen it in a long time. But
it is so darn good. Yeah,
I watched that, and then I watched like the I had it on DVD, and I remember watching like the director's commentary, and then watching it again after watching the director's commentary, and just seeing all these different parts in the film that I never noticed before. So it's a good one.
Nice, yeah. It very much does sort of fall apart after the first one. I think just not really sure how to take it any further, and it's not really a film that needs to be taken further.
Yeah, I am quite a fan of when they take quite a serious first movie and then they make increasingly ridiculous sequels to it. I quite like that. I like it when they've done it with Nightmare on Elm Street and things like that. But I don't know why the Texas Chainsaw Massacre sequels didn't. I don't know. I just watched 1 or 2 of them and I was just like, I'm not that interested. I don't know why.
Yeah, fair play. All right, so we talked a little bit about the production of it. Shrouded, are you ready to do the Pint of Guinness summary?
Oh no,
I've got an actual video of some Guinness if you want, if it would help.
Okay, yeah, do it. It made me thirsty though.
Where is it? Oh, hang on. All right, got it. I will have to knock the sound off. I'm ready. I've got my Guinness here.
All right, get ready.
All right. And in case this makes no sense to anyone, the Pint of Guinness challenge, I'm sure many of you know this. If you're watching this on the review, you've never seen this before, I'll just say, like, the Pint of Guinness challenge is to try and give someone an overview of the film, roughly what it's about, before we go full in detail, full spoiler mode, so that someone knows roughly what's happening. So it's all kind of spoilers from here on out, but that's the idea of the Pint of Guinness challenge. Summarize the film, tell people what it's about in the time it takes to pour a pint of Guinness. And that is an amazing idea. That is I am so doing that. I will edit one for the next one, Mr. Gently Benevolent. Okay. All right. Here we go.
Oh, I'm stressed. Okay. So what you got in this movie is a classic good versus evil story with a bit of a historical religious bent to it, I'd say. You've got this
don't be put off. It has to settle. The Guinness
oh
has
god,
to settle.
it's the sight of it's putting me off. You've got a guy being pursued by, I guess it's the devil, and he's trying to get this key off him that has the blood of, is it the blood of Christ in this amulet thing? And they hold him. He holds himself up in this sort of motel brothel type of place, and they're besieged from outside by the devil, who calls up this horde of demons to attack them. And it's basically like a really schlocky, over the top, cartoonish horror movie with a bit of comedy thrown in, and yeah, just some like strangely almost out of place like religious imagery and metaphor in there as well, which is kind of jarring given the kind of cartoony, jokey nature of the movie. And it's got some really nice gore, some really nice like practical effects in there, and some like nice like puppetry type of work. And yeah, it's enjoyable. Is that settled yet?
I think so. In fairness, I might have to just like film my own, because the guy who I took this video from YouTube, and the guy speeds it up to it when it starts settling, which I think is cheating and possibly anxiety inducing.
I find it so hard to describe the movie when you ask me to. I don't know what it is. It's just the idea of summing up a movie and, you know, in a few sentences, just really, I don't know, it gives me massive anxiety somehow.
You are far from the first person to say it. All right, no, that's absolutely fine.
And also it's bookended with some nice Crypt Keeper stuff as well.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that bit. So, I mean, in terms of, it gives you a very strong continuity with the original series. Something that I really liked was just its, how can I say, it's very schlocky, and it knows it's very schlocky. So sort of opening with this big parody, and having a lot of fun with the idea of saying that, you know, Tales from the Crypt is too big for its boots now. You know, it's moving up in the world, and playing that up as an ego with their little mascot, the presenter, the Crypt Keeper.
Yeah. The only thing with this intro was I kind of wanted to watch the rest of that movie with the acid bath killed guy coming out and hacking his girlfriend to death. I was getting a bit invested in that, and then it turns out it's, you know, it's a fake out. I was like, I would have watched that.
It does worry me. How can I say it? Sometimes I watch these movies and you get such a brief shot of something that looks absolutely amazing. So as we said, they're starting off with a parody. You know, it's a ridiculously over the top, massively betitted actress, really like overacting deliberately. So it's so blatant. It's incredibly low grade. And, you know, she's murdered her husband, chucked him in an acid bath, but then the corpse rises out of the acid bath. And it's like, it's this, do you remember Futurama, the Scary Door episodes? Like that parody of ultra condensed Twilight Zone episodes. Yeah. This is ultra condensed Tales from the Crypt, you know, big boobs, big gore, someone gets their well-deserved comeuppance. But yeah, the guy, the body of the guy dissolved in the acid bath looks amazing.
Yeah, and when he's going up the stairs and his fingers stick to the staircase because he's like all half melted. I love that.
It's so good. It
Yeah,
looks amazing.
I wanted to see the rest of that movie, so
Sorry, Maverick posted one of my favorite quotes. I love it. Very applicable on the internet. Yeah, it's lovely. You don't lose the sense of identity of the film. Like the bookends really keep you within the realm of Tales from the Crypt, and it's lovely seeing the Crypt Keeper here, even though the effects of him walking do look very weird.
Yeah, I've read online that they like superimposed his head. They made someone wear like a green screen face, and they took the head out and superimposed it on, so it looks a bit weird.
It does. They don't. I thought it was maybe like a simplified puppet because it didn't seem to have the full range of motion.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, if you try and if you watch the DVDs, the Crypt Keeper puppet had decayed by the time they were filming, so he couldn't really do the full intros for the DVD, which is kind of sad.
Oh, I didn't really know much about the whole Crypt Keeper thing. Like my memory of the Crypt Keeper from like before I saw this movie was my cousin had like an action figure or like a doll, which was the Crypt Keeper, and he used to say like some of his quotes when he pressed a button on his back. But I wasn't really aware of like the TV show. I'd never seen any of the TV show or anything. I was aware he was from something, but I think seeing the Demon Knight movie was my first like introduction to the Crypt Keeper on screen.
That must have been confusing.
I was kind of vaguely aware that I kind of, I knew that he must have been from some TV show. I knew he was like from something, but I wasn't like, I hadn't seen him in anything before, so it wasn't like confusing. It was just like, I hadn't really got the reference of him like in the TV shows, and yeah, I don't know.
No, that's interesting because I know we're about the same age. So, I mean, I never had HBO, and my exposure to Tales from the Crypt was the Blockbuster. Just moment of thought for Blockbuster. They carried a few Tales from the Crypt VHSs, like two. So I've rented them both a few times.
Yeah, I've seen some of them since then, like on TV, but yeah, I wasn't. I'd never seen him before, like on a VHS or anything.
Yeah, I don't think we got big exposure to them in the UK, and maybe if he had Sky or something, but I never did. So my exposure was very limited. I've acquired the entire set, but and I've been meaning to go through it all, but there's a lot of it, and I'm a bit slow going, so I will get there. But
he's way camper than I remember as well. Watching this, like I didn't remember him being such a camp character, but he was giving me like RuPaul sort of vibes. He was saying certain lines.
He's so over the top. The puns are dreadful, and I love them. Like it's so I should maybe try and be a bit academic. The Crypt Keeper is sort of your parody version of, so he's both a takeoff of the actual Crypt Keeper character from the EC comics, who's presented as like a hooded monk type figure. But he's also here being a parody of the horror show hosts of the sort of that would introduce horror movies back in the day on American cable. And lots of them, as their gimmick, would do these terrible puns. So we're talking like Elvira, we're talking Paul Bearer, was it Sicko Sid, Sven Gulli? They would all do these terrible puns. And the Crypt Keeper just turns it up to 11. He's doing nastier stories, far more explicit stories, and his puns are absolutely eye-gougingly terrible because of and he's an actual monster, so it's all like an amplification of the trends before. I mean, that is the quote of the stream. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. That
very true. Hello, boys and girls.
That's the line I remember from that my cousin's like weird Crypt Keeper doll. He used to say that.
Yeah.
Boils and ghouls.
I mean, even the poster has just like this awful pun. Are you ready for your dead time story? It is such a
Oh,
terrible pun.
you know what? I've got that on it. I've got that on a T-shirt. I forgot to say I've got a Crypt Keeper T-shirt that I've had for years. I got from a charity shop, and it's got that on the back. It says like, "Hello, kiddies. Are you ready for your dead time story?"
Oh
So
gosh,
I've been wearing a T-shirt of a film that I thought I didn't like for years,
that is
which is weird.
bizarre. You know, there's a children's TV show as well, which is that's got to be.
Was it like a
confusing.
cartoon,
Yeah, it
like
was a
an
cartoon.
animated thing?
There's an animated version of it where they did PG versions of these stories.
Yeah, that rings a bell.
It's so weird. It's like how they used to have action toys for kids from the Aliens film
Yeah,
and
yeah,
RoboCop. It's like, why does this exist?
yeah, yeah. They went through a weird phase in like it was sort of like the early 90s, wasn't it, where they started like marketing horror products and adult movies to children. It was really strange.
Yeah, it wasn't like the high quality collectibles. It was just
Yeah.
literally a children's toy for a thing you really, really shouldn't have seen. Wink, wink. You know.
Yeah, I had like Terminator figures, and I don't think I'd ever like my parents were really strict about what I was allowed to watch, so I don't think I'd ever seen like Terminator. That was too violent for me as a child, but I'd got all the figures for it. And my brother had a load of those Alien figures as well.
Bless. My parents were reasonably strict, but they had a rule, which was that if I'd read the book, I could watch the film.
Oh, that's quite a good way to get you to read something.
It worked. I saw The Exorcist very early. That way, William Peter Blatty wrote a good book. What can I say?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it entirely worked as they intended, but what can you do? So moving on. Yeah, the storyline is very much as you said. It's very basic. It's our hero Breaker is played by William Sadler, is pursued by the amazingly camp, having an amazing time, Billy Zane.
Yeah, he's loving it, isn't he? But
He's
I like the way at the beginning it's almost like you think the roles are reversed. Like you think Billy Zane, he looks like the good guy, doesn't he? Like it's almost like they set up the protagonists. You see him like trying to steal a car, and he looks like he's on the run. He looks like the bad guy, and Billy Zane looks quite clean cut. You think, oh, he must be the cop or something.
It's very Terminator, isn't it? He's
Yeah.
very Kyle Reese. I think we're maybe primed for that a bit. But yeah, I love that he comes here into this motel, very rundown mission. You know, the obvious statement here: it was a mission. It's now a rundown place filled with the social detritus. The obvious commentary about the degradation of religion in society, but a few people keeping it going, which is kind of standard 90s message. I'll also take the moment to point out now two things. We've got classic Tales from the Crypt direction here. This angle, just slightly off, Dutch angle, very expressive, odd emphasis on people, being a sort of skewed thing to show we're slightly out of reality, a little more comic book.
Yeah, I was going to say a lot of the shots look like frames from a comic book. I thought that quite a lot of the frames looked like that. Yeah, that one I was thinking of that where you got the cross behind him and that like bright neon pink and the blue.
Yeah, it's very lurid, very vivid, very dynamic as well.
Yeah.
So the camera starts off and he just like moves straight into frame, which was probably a nightmare for the cameraman to get. But it probably did it remind you a bit of Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2 and that sort of camera work?
I wasn't really thinking of that. No, I suppose it does now that you mention it. Yeah, it just made me think of comic books, like the way you've got like how you've got the characters in frame in a comic story. You know, the way they'll draw like one character really close up in the foreground and then one in the background like that, and it creates a nice dynamic image, and that's what it brought to mind.
Yeah, it's lovely to see, and I think it does keep it. how can I say it? It keeps it lively. It makes it not too serious. It makes
Yeah.
it very dramatic as well,
Yeah.
which is nice.
And the
And
characters are all a bit two-dimensional, but not really in a bad way. They're all quite over the top, but they haven't got like a huge amount of depth to them. They're all, just sort of parodies of themselves almost.
they're incredibly broadly drawn, and I think it's a bit of a juggling act that the film has to do to be entertaining, be light, be working with these quite broadly drawn. I think you're right to say largely two-dimensional characters, but keep them interesting and keep you
Mhm.
involved. Little things like this help. This,
Yeah, get the pussy off the table.
yeah, I love it. It's so cheesy. It's so extremely cheesy. But it does set the tone, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll go back to the other angle. By the way, that's it. Oh God, what's his? Why can't I remember the chap's name? Dick Miller. There we go.
Yeah.
Dick Miller there on the left. William Sadler. I don't know this actress particularly well. I'll have a look if she was in much more. Like she's quite fun in this.
Yeah, I think I like all the characters in it. I like them as well, which is quite rare with me with a movie. Usually, there's a few characters in there that I just think, when they come on screen, I'm like, they're boring. But I felt like everyone in this was quite lively and enjoyable, and there wasn't anyone that I didn't want to sort of spend time with watching the film.
Oh yeah, I mean that's a really good thing. Is that how can I say, it's got a good momentum to it. It's got a really good pace, so you don't mind that people are a bit broad. Gosh, where is he? Oh, so I found out this is Brenda Bakke. I assume that's how you pronounce it, Bakke. She was also in LA Confidential, which might be the highlight of the career. She's absolutely grand in this. And then the guy on the right there is pint-sized Andre the Giant, as I refer to him the whole time. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong.
I can't unsee that now.
Yeah, and Mergut's already highlighted. Who else I wanted to highlight? CCH Pounder is absolutely fantastic. I do think I've got a better shot of her somewhere. I've tried not to take too many for this. We'll use this for her. Yeah, CCH Pounder is absolutely fantastic. I love it. You probably know her best from The Shield if you've seen her in that, but I'm really fond of her for being in Psycho 4, which is little seen, little loved, but I absolutely adored it. She's fantastic. And she's generally a bit more serious, but I think she gets to cut a bit loose in this movie as well, which is quite nice. Enjoy something schlocky, enjoy her arm coming off.
Yeah.
Ignacio, I'm not sure if she was in The Wire. I'll have a look. She was in The Shield. You might be thinking of that. Both quite amazing police stories. I'm not seeing her in The Wire. No. So I think it's just The Shield. The Wire was awesome enough. It couldn't handle CCH Pounder being in it as well. We will cover Psycho 4 one day. I'll find a way to do it. Yes, as we were saying, it moves along very briskly. It's set up the scenario quite well. Very simple. Breaker's on the run from this guy. That's your main dynamic. Everyone else is a cast of character. Oh, hang on. That is amazing, cool. Richard. I'm somewhat jealous. Yeah, she's so cool. Brilliant. Sort of brilliant foil to Michael Chiklis's Vic Mackey in The Shield. But then pretty much everyone in that show is on their A game. The guy who plays David Acevedo, I hope I got the character name right. He's one of those actors now that I see him absolutely everywhere, like turning up in random tiny roles. Like he was in Saw as like someone's lawyer, and he was in he's like randomly in Firefly in one episode in one shot as like basically an extra. I'm getting very derailed here, but anyway, he gets the help of the police to drag him out, and then when the police aren't entirely going his way, well, would you like to describe an absolutely amazing scene when the table turns after the police were initially helping the collector, Billy Zane's collector character?
Which scene?
I'm thinking of the one where he just punches his fist right through the back of a policeman's head.
Yeah. Up until that point, you don't really know who he is. You get a feeling that there's something weird about him, and he's a bit sinister. But then he say something like, he's like, I don't know. He says like, "Who are you?" or something like that, and he's like, "I'll show you." And he just punches this policeman, and his fist goes straight through his face and out the back of his head. And then he has the policeman's like disembodied head stuck to his arm, and he's like trying to get it off. Amazing.
It's scary. It's a moment of intense schlock.
Yeah, that's like the first like real gore moment as well in that movie. It just suddenly like up to that point, it's been, it's been fun, but it's nothing really too exciting's happened, and then all of a sudden it's just like, right, this is the kind of film you're watching. People get punched through the head. You
get that moment of shock.
Yeah.
And then it's just the genius of it's stuck on his hand and he's shaking it off.
Yeah, and you just they're all like panicking, and you can just see him in the background, just like it just adds like a little bit of comedy to the whole thing. Yeah,
it's absolutely glorious. Like he is camping it up a bit, and I do get lots of like Ash in Evil Dead vibes, like when he's mocking them outside. But he's bringing so much energy to it. It's brilliant. I also point out like the punching someone through the head is very rarely done. I can think of like 4 times it's been done. And I treasure it every time. Probably the I don't know, best well known is probably Brain Dead, but there's a really nice version of it that shows up in 30 Days of Night. I probably sound really unbalanced.
You got like a little library of people getting punched through the head. Little moments. I really like seeing people die that way, but maybe I'm sounding. I'm not making the case for us horror fans as being balanced, normal, healthy individuals, am I? Well, it's just nice because I get so disappointed where someone gets their head twisted and the neck snap. I've seen that so many times where there's like a super strong character and they just twist someone's head to the side. It's such a cheap effect to do. You just get someone to turn their head and add like a cracking noise to it. And I've seen that so many times. It's so disappointing when someone gets killed like that. That it's nice to see a nice gore effect.
It is. I think you do. How can I say? You also know with a neck snap that there was a little. They might have filmed something else, but they kept that in as like the less violent option.
Yeah.
So when they're doing trying to wrangle over the certificate, it's a bit of reality. I'll just point out, Miss Gently Benevolent, thank you for the $5 Australian. Now that what's a Trumpimon card?
Oh, it's Donald Trump's released some like digital collector cards that show him as like a superhero and stuff like that. $99 each.
Is that
like
real?
NFTs? Yeah, they look pretty good. I kind of want one, to be honest.
And he didn't call them top trumps. I'm disgusted. I'm disgusted. Oh dear. Well, okay, so that's what a Trumpimon card is. No, I want top trumps cards. Will you and Waifu be offering us PH and Waifu NFTs after cornering the plushie market? Well, we've got to get the body pillows out first, Mr. Gently Benevolent. But
what, did you have
the
plushies?
bathwater? Can't. Everyone's doing plushies now,
Yeah, there's some company that they contacted me. It's like you sort of like you do the campaign for them, and then if they get enough people wanting one, they'll like put them into production. But I couldn't find out where they were made, and it looked like they were made in some weird Chinese factory. So I didn't take them up on the offer because I couldn't tell where they were making these plushies.
I can't blame you. I tell you, if I were gonna merch it up, it would be infused. I do gin infusions.
Oh, that'd be good. Yeah.
I'm a fan of that. One of the little bit of proper horror show deep lore there. Some of the gin infusion sign hobby. Anyway,
Well,
thank you very much.
What does gently benevolent mean? You've already cornered the plushie market. Have you already got something out?
Mr. GB wants proper horror show merch, and it's it's the right side of disturbing. Well, thank you very much, Mr. GB, for your contribution to the proper horror show coffers. And with Christmas round the corner, folks, if you want to pitch in to help me drink away the pain of having to watch some, you'll understand when you see what the Christmas special is on. You'll see how much I've suffered. And Mr. Gently Benevolent, you will be able to watch my review of The Craft Legacy tomorrow. So watch out for the post on that for members. You'll be able to see it. And God rest your soul when you do. Okay. Yeah, never forget Sargon did actually make.
Yeah, I remember those.
Anime Carl body pillows. Oh dear. Yeah. Where were we? Yeah. So he unleashes a horde of demons. You have a siege scenario. There's a bit of additional creativity. Did we mention what this is all about? I think we might have glossed over that. No, you did. You did say it was
vaguely. I wasn't very good in describing it.
Don't worry. So, this is something it does very well. The stakes are incredibly established. The rules are very clear. It's shown to us in the scenario with the policeman. The collector wants the artifact that contains something, but he wants that stuff tipped out. He can't touch it himself. This is all. It's quite wonderful that it just gets the rules across in that scenario without anyone having to really walk us through it. And I really like that. You know how you get the modern Marvel and someone will just give you the exposition about what a thing does.
Yeah.
And this really doesn't want to do that. It just gives you the dynamics.
Yeah, it gives you some like little flashbacks to sort of get the story going, but it doesn't. Yeah, you don't get like a whole lot of lore about the thing that they're trying to get, the key bottle thing. It looks like it's got a lot of. It's like a weird shape, and it looks like there's some sort of story to it, but you don't really get a lot of that. It's just sort of. It's sort of there in the world, and they're trying to get hold of it, but
it's
it doesn't
kind of
like bog you down with all these like minor details about it.
No, it keeps it very light and breezy, which is interesting and appreciated. This is a 92-minute story, and if you take out the sort of bookend sections, you're probably talking about something like probably a bit more like an 84-minute story. This is very it's a very efficient film.
Yeah.
There's a so you talked about the backstory. I thought that was kind of interesting. Like maybe we'll take a little detour onto this because I found these sections quite fascinating because they're just so, how can I say, ballsy.
Yeah, just randomly having a crucifixion scene right in the middle of this, like sort of near the beginning, just plonked into this this sort of cheesy horror movie. It's really weird, but I liked it. I like that it went there.
Yeah, it's really bold, and it's sort of interesting. It feels very 90s to me. In the sense they treat it a bit more respectfully, which is kind of interesting and appreciated.
I feel like if it made it today, they'd ever just take this element out, or they'd they'd
It would
just be
be a
mocking it completely.
unrelated. I think it would be a completely unrelated item, no connection to Christianity whatsoever.
Yeah,
There's
or it would be like related to Christianity, but then the main characters, the younger ones, would be sort of edgy atheist type, sort of making fun of it or something along those lines.
It would be some kind of dogma level thing, and I
Yeah.
like dogma, but it'd be some kind of maybe some Christianity, but adjusted for modern message.
Mhm.
Whereas in the 90s, what I see is a kind of fascination with Christianity and stories that feel the power of Christianity, but not wanting to engage strictly with it.
Yeah.
And to
Yeah.
sort of give an example of what I mean by that, Buffy the Vampire Slayer uses extensive Christian imagery. So, crosses, holy water, but it doesn't engage with Christianity as a direct faith. So Buffy never converts. There's a joke in season 5 about her potentially becoming a nun after a breakup. And I think it is a very 90s thing of seeing a sort of the power of Christianity, but not being able to relate to it. So it will turn
Yeah.
up in your fiction in a sort of fictionalized version of itself. I hope that made sense. I feel like I just rambled completely.
No, it makes sense. Yeah, I think as at the turn of like after the millennium, you started to see that sort of start to get turned on its head, and I noticed this when I was watching Wire in the Blood. That was sort of
Oh,
early noughties, and there's a lot
yeah.
of like sort of anti-Christian messages and sort of that whole like atheist thing started to come in. It was almost like they were looking at this era from the 90s and sort of trying to sort of go against it or sort of turn it all on its head. You do sort of notice that message sort of creep in around then.
Yeah, or you get they're like miracles, and quite isolated. Like something will be like a miracle, a response to a prayer, or you might have an angelic visitor who saves a thing, but then it's kept quite isolated.
Yeah.
This is a really good shout out from Mergoot. Those are a couple of others really
Yeah.
interesting ones.
Yeah. Or just having, even without the religious message, just the sort of straight up good versus evil. I feel like modern day it would be a bit more. They'd try and be a bit sort of postmodern and have like they try and have a bit more of like I don't know. I feel like they try and make the evil side seem good, whereas in the 90s it was much more clear cut. You had a good guy and a bad guy. You had good versus evil. That's very much the message of this film, isn't it? Like good versus evil. Whereas nowadays we've got like all these films that trying to make like the Disney the witches from like the Disney movies into good guys and look at them in like a sympathetic light.
Oh, you're so right. I mean, we're on a bit of a detour here, but it's an interesting one. Yeah, you feel it has to be translated. So like the Devil's Advocate, which is, by the way, really worth a rewatch, folks. Very interesting. Yeah, Disney has had to do that with all these films focused on the villains. They've had to recontextualize them, but they couldn't just do the how can I say, they couldn't just do the story as was. Like they weren't able to engage with it, so they had to effectively tell a different story and pretend it was the same. So they've done that with Maleficent and Cruella. Have they done anyone else?
I haven't seen any of it. I'm just sort of aware. I've read reviews and I'm kind of aware of those stories, and I've just noticed it with other things where they try and take someone who's like evil or in the past would have just been seen as like the bad guy, and they try and sympathize them a bit more, which I think is interesting in some cases. But like maybe something like this, if they made it today, they'd make the devil a good guy and try and make excuses for why he behaves that way, and the Christian would be the bad guy. I don't know.
I think, you know, I don't know if they'd do that, but I tell you what I think they might do is that the characters, the human characters uninvolved, would be like, they'd kind of take the Christian side, but they'd be really critical of it, and they'd be like, we'll carry it on, but we'll do it our way.
Yeah.
I could see that happening. These things are interesting, and they do feel very of their time. This scene in particular, but also I just see it as kind of a quite joyous bit of fun with the budget. You know, just this is not a budget that they had access to easily, and they're really having a great amount of fun on this.
Yeah. Well, actually, didn't they had like a script for a lower budget version where the demons weren't demons, they were like Bible salesmen or something like that. I'm sure I read that. They had like
I saw that was down. They were trying to do one that gets around the demons. I'll show one of the demons actually, because I think they look a bit amazing. I mean, it's quite simple. Something else that this film does quite nicely is it doesn't overshow the demons. They're largely just in shadow. That's about the clearest shot we have of them. I suppose you do see some of them in the light later on, and it's pretty nice, but I feel these shots are most effective. Like it feels very iconic to me.
Yeah. When you see them you do see them a bit clearer, and it's kind of, you just feel like, oh, it's someone wearing a suit. You know, it's when it's in the shadow, it's a bit more effective, I think.
We see them walking on. I think they're almost certainly ballet dancers, because all of them have incredibly thin frames, but they're walking effectively on these incredibly high fake hoof shoes that are giving them extra height, but let them walk at a weird angle. So it's a good choice. They managed to, and the dancers get to do these really cool movements.
And they've got pierced nipples as well, which is an odd touch.
Yeah, I mean,
a bit of a weird like BDSM thing about them.
They're wonderfully profane, you know. And they're referred to as like tortured souls as well, which I really quite like. Although the sort of thing of, you get the implication that there were tortured souls in the darkness before God created everything. I'm not sure how that law works out, but again, as we've discussed, the film kind of plays a bit fast and loose with the law.
Yeah, it just sort of drops little bits in like that. But like I say, it doesn't fill out too much. It doesn't like bog you down. It just sort of, it drops little tidbits like that, and he just fleshes it out just enough so that it doesn't seem completely like they've got no backstory. But it doesn't like, it just doesn't bog you down with every detail of like where they've come from, what they are.
Yeah, it's good design. Effectively, it's using their budget very well, and for the rest of it, they are just, for a really simple scenario, these things help. You get a big action scene. You get the rules very clear, that the blood can create a barrier. You've got a limited amount of it. And so Breaker has a limited amount of time. He pretty much knows this is his final night and he's got to pass it on. All of this is communicated really well in the very simple story, without sort of extremely painful exposition.
Yeah, that bit with it, when he had the tattoo on his hand and the stars are like aligning. Is that like counting down to his death? Or I was a bit like, I didn't really get what that was. It might have just gone over my head because
no, that's what it was.
It was like counting down to his time to go and pass on the.
Yeah, I mean, it could have equally been something like Directions, but I got the vibe that was.
I like what he was at first. I thought it was Directions because he gets to the motel church place, and he's like, yeah, this is where I need to be, because he like looks at his hand and the stars are like moving into place. So I thought, oh, he needs to go there. But then by the end of the film, I thought, oh, well, why did he need to go there? Because he was being pursued by that guy. So he could have been anywhere, really. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, you read it correctly.
Okay.
And since they're in there, then we get a lot of fun. Again, this is it because they communicate the rule. This is going to sound very basic, folks, but forgive me. Because they make the rules so clear, it's really easy for us to get involved and feel the tension and know what's at stake. This is just when you're having outlandish elements, it really helps to do that. You get that right, your story flows and we can be involved. Whereas if you work with a lot of movies, you just don't know what the stakes are. I'll tell you what, I'll give you, just because it's been, I don't know why, on my mind for the last few days. The Craft Legacy has no clear rules whatsoever about how its magic works and what you need to do. So when you have a moment of, you try and build a moment of tension around whether someone can defend themselves magically, you just don't know, because the movie has told you 4 different versions of how a spell can work and what's needed for it. So in that scene, you've got no idea. Is she helpless? Is she not helpless? You don't know.
And you never get a sense of peril when that's the case, because you think, well, they could just make up a rule on the fly to get them out of that situation.
I think you see it in the Marvel movies, is you don't know what someone can a power that someone can just pull out of thin air. You just don't know what the stakes are.
Yeah, I don't watch many Marvel movies, so I don't know, but
I don't blame you. I dropped out of them I dropped out of them after Endgame, to be honest. Actually, that is the last one I saw.
Yeah,
I've
seen some reviews of things like that.
Yeah.
Doesn't Captain Marvel have like all these powers that make her basically unstoppable? But like,
that would be a very good example. I haven't seen Captain Marvel, but you know how it works on the internet, Shrouded. It's I haven't seen Doctor Strange 2, but I have seen a 6-hour review of it.
I honestly know. I feel like I know more about films that I don't want to watch because I'll watch a review. Like Red Letter Media will put out a video, and if it's something that I want to watch, I won't watch their review of it. But if it's something I have no interest in, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll listen to them talk about it. So I've seen like reviews of all these films that I have no interest in.
Oh, same. I don't want to see it. I want to see the film analysis of it. Gosh darn it. I mean, that's my whole business model here, Shrouded. Let's move on to some of the fun. This is a good stuff. This is just keeping it entertaining, keeping it interesting. We know what because the characters are also so very broadly depicted, we know what their weaknesses are. And so when the demon, the collector, starts trying to persuade them and convert them and seduce them, it's quite easy. I didn't like it the first time he did it, where he turned the woman, what was her name? Cordelia.
Yeah.
When he sort of seduced her, and then she kills Andre the Simp. And I thought that was probably quite racy back then, the fact that they had so the guy who looks like Andre the Giant, but he's a postal worker who's disgruntled and was about to go and shoot up the post office. It seems like quite I don't know, maybe a dated reference now, but that might have been a bit spicy back in the day.
Yeah, it would have been. That would have been like, the going postal thing would have been
literally from there,
quite fresh in people's minds. Yeah,
it's probably quite an edgy take there. But yeah, that set the bar effectively. You get absolutely ridiculous fun gore, over the top. You've got I don't know, is it that scene that CCH Pounder's arm is just ripped off?
I don't know if that's later on, is it? I can't remember. I know she gets possessed by the devil guy. Is he supposed to be the devil, or is he like an agent of the devil?
I think he's just an agent of the devil because there's a few of them.
Yeah, and he kind of possesses that woman. She reminded me of she reminded me of like a prostitute in like a Western movie. Somehow, like I felt like that was what they were trying to. The way they had her dressed up at the beginning kind of made her look like that. But anyway, she gets possessed, and then she gets turned into a really, really nice, like practical effect puppet type of thing with a head that comes apart and all this demonic stuff. I can't remember if that's where they rip off CCH Pounder's arm.
It might be then.
Yeah.
I mean, this is maybe something else we should comment on. Is the practical effects are absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
I love this stuff. It's a style of them as well. So we talked about the demons, but I don't know how you would describe things like this.
I don't know, like body horror or.
It's like, how can I say? This might make no sense, but kind of skater art.
Yeah.
The cartoon figures in skater art or like scar bands would have a very sort of loose way of being drawn. And these demons, when they possess the humans, they take on these really weird shapes that kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah. Like that style of, in Beavis and Butthead Do America, where he starts tripping out in the desert and it turns into that sort of skater art style. I don't know if you remember that scene, but it's all full of like demons and things, and it looks like that. All these like distorted, stretched faces.
I'm having a look now for. I'm going to see if I can find an example because I realise the words I'm using.
I know. I think I know the ones you mean. It's like
Less than Jake's image here.
Where it's like the eyes popping out and the.
Yes, hang on. I'll get this up on. For my incredibly helpful example here is that's what I meant. Like this kind of weird. It's more about the proportions and the body design, where just everything is out of line. That's what it reminded me of. But yeah, I just love that design. I thought it was so effective. Just this thing-like vibe as well for how much the body distorts.
Yeah. There's not much ceremony for it either. Like this woman, 1 minute she's like a main character, and then all of a sudden she's just a demonic thing that they've got to kill. There's not much mourning for her being turned into a demon. It's just
no one cares.
It's just like, oh, she's a demon now. We've got to kill her.
Yeah. This one as well, I thought was kind of cheating. I mean, you know the pattern of this is it's not surprising for you. It's a siege scenario. Everyone's going to get picked off one by one. It's going to happen. It's all fine. But when they get down to the kid that they rescue, that was actually kind of an interesting one because his possession and turning into this massive deformed monster that actually gets to do the fatal attack on Breaker, on our protagonist, is really interesting. But it's in one way it's interesting because it's a bit of a cheat, like he just turns out of nowhere. But the reason
you didn't see how he got seduced,
it's sort of breaking the rules. I know I've been saying, they established the rules so well, but he actually gets turned by reading the comic of Tales from the Crypt, which you see actually has the plot of the movie in it.
I thought it was more that he was reading it and then like the devil guy, the agent of the devil sort of used that as a tool to sort of get into the boy's mind, in the way they sort of, there was that like panic back in the day where they said like comic books were seducing children's minds with all this, that's what you used to say about the old EC comics, didn't they? So
I was going to say that's possibly the explanation for it. It felt like a bit of a cheat for me, but I suppose we don't always see the sort of seduction scenes that the demon collector has with them. So possibly, the book is a representation of it. But I was
You
going to
saw
say,
you saw a bit where it was almost like one of the panels came to life as he was looking at it. I can't remember exactly what it was. It was something like moved on the page, and it was like
yeah,
that's when you knew there was something going on with the comic book.
yeah, John Gorris, it definitely has that energy to it, definitely. And yeah, Shrouded, you went exactly where I went as well. That was a sort of you can understand them having fun with that idea that they don't they want to make fun of the idea that the youth will be corrupted by this stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and so they do a very literal thing. You know, it's kind of for all the complexities of that issue. It's quite a funny way that they did it.
yeah. Well, didn't they ban the old EC comics for a while because they didn't they like restrict them in what they could show because they thought exactly that it would corrupt children's minds in some way.
I'm not actually sure about that. One of the things I'm going to be doing next year is I'll actually be moving on to the sort of American censorship,
Mm.
but I have to do a lot of research for that. Basically, it's just I've touched on little bits of it that I had to know for BBFC stuff, but otherwise it's a whole new area for me to research. I've got a very fun Christmas list this year, Shrouded. Lots of
Yeah.
Could I have these books on American film censorship, please?
Yeah, I'm sure there's something like that. Isn't it like there's always something new that's going to sort of corrupt the youth or turn them into devil worshippers. It's it's either movies or Dungeons and Dragons or comic
Mm.
books, and I'm sure those old EC comics had their day where it was censored or something along those lines. I'm not like 100% on that, but
No, that is the pattern we see.
yeah, Comics
But
Code of the 60s, Mergut says.
okay.
1950s.
All right.
Mm.
Yeah, I'd say I mean I think I'm probably a lot more pro censorship than most people I have, but I have on here. But as I say, my take is not solid and it's a bit different. I think the films do like, or the arguments do tend to be that argument that yes,
Mm.
you listen to Eminem and then you go and shoot up your school, you know,
Yeah.
which I think is a sort of very reductionist view of it.
Mhm.
But we will have a censorship debate on the stream eventually. But I've got to finish BBFC history first, so we'll get there. But I'm waiting until TCG comes back because there's no way he's allowed to escape it. No, he's got to be there for the final. It just wouldn't feel right. But
You're going to
yeah,
come up
this
with a finale song.
I have been trying to sort out a second song. I will give a spoiler for that, but that's been a bit more difficult to do. So we are. There will be a second song, and there is going to be a song for the American version as well, because I know you guys all love it so much when I do musical numbers.
Yeah.
Maybe I should play it now. No. So yeah, I just thought this for all our talk that this is a bit fun. It's a bit schlocky. It's kind of interesting that they did slip this commentary into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let's see. I might talk more about the other commentary that's put in here at the end, and it's sort of interesting to. You can't be as sure how much was intended, but I just want to talk a little bit about these seduction scenes that I found so interesting.
Yeah.
Like they had so much nice variety. So this is the attempt to seduce Jada Pinkett's character, who I think we haven't actually talked about yet.
Yeah, she was, well, like I say, all the characters were quite one-dimensional, really, two-dimensional, say. But yeah, she was the ex-con working at the motel as some kind of jail release program, wasn't she?
Yeah, just make sure you're complimentary. You know, some people get very upset if you criticize Jada Smith. I just don't want any of us slapped. You know,
yeah.
absolute state of that. Yeah. Isn't it weird that she was in Scream 2 just 2 years after this?
Yeah, it's I mean, I like honestly with actors and I really like don't follow what people have been in. So
Oh, no worries, no
did
worries.
she have much of a like horror career, or did she just do this and Scream 2? And
No, she really doesn't. And she plays this very straight.
Yeah, she was good in this.
Yeah, I think she's a kind of, she plays a straight role to balance it out, because everyone else has got an element of camp to their performance and larger than life, and she is. I
Yeah,
think she kind of goes a bit. She tries to do that vibe at the start of it, and then she settles into something that's a bit more grounded, which I think is kind of helpful.
yeah. She had to kind of. I mean, I know she was already been in prison, so she'd already done something bad, but
Mm,
you don't see that on screen, and she's sort of got to. She's sort of got to retain her virtue through the movie, so that
mm.
she can come out at the end as the the victor. She's got to sort of stay clean, whereas everyone else has kind of most of the people in it have got something a bit sort of grubby, or a bit something about them that's
Mm.
slightly less virtuous, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah, it's an interesting angle. I did feel like it didn't fit as well with everything else, and it was a bit confusing. You wonder why she was in that situation.
Mm.
But then again, it's a whole thing about how you've got an icon with the blood of Jesus on. If someone can't get redeemed,
Yeah, yeah,
it's an interesting one. There's some nice gore in that. It's not as interesting, but
yeah,
my favourite one was well, I really liked him attempting to tempt CCH Pounder and her just having none of it.
yeah,
That
This
was
was
a
this
delight.
one here with the old guy was the
Mm.
best bit. I didn't really like the seduction scenes, to be honest. I don't like any. For some reason, I'm really put off in films where there's like a dream sequence or something that's not real, or where you're seeing inside someone's like
Mm.
hallucination. I don't know why. It just takes me out of it a bit. He's slightly you like one more removed from the action of the film almost, and
You,
I just didn't really like these bits as much.
yeah, they can be jarring, and I suppose
Hmm.
you do often enter a realm of I don't know what the rules are. I don't know what's at stake.
Yeah, I like the
This
idea
though,
of it though.
this has a purpose. I
Mhm.
mean, you're not sure if anyone's under threat, but you do know that the main point is to seduce them. And having seen that our boy Willie, who is a bit of what would they say? Uh, well, he's fond of the booze. I was reaching for a colloquialism, and I can't find one, I'm afraid.
He
But
likes to
that's
drink.
his characterization. He's a borderline hobo. He likes the booze, so the route to seduction for him is extremely predictable,
Yeah,
and you get we had quite a bit of the old boober at the start, but
yeah,
then they absolutely go over the top with it, and he's just, I obviously can't have this on the screen cap, but he's surrounded by topless models.
uh-huh. Apparently, the German version, they've all wearing bikini tops.
Really?
Yeah, they changed the scene for the German version. So yeah, I enjoyed this scene, to be honest, for the obvious reason, but just the fact that
It
it's a
doesn't
dream
hurt, does it?
sequence. Yeah, it was pretty entertaining.
Oh, there we go. Yes, Booze Hound is what I was after, Dr. Prepper.
Booze
Thank
Hound.
you. John Goris, a good suggestion, but this is a family stream, sir. Murgoot, Lush. I would definitely have accepted Lush. That was good. Yes. Drink sodden former Trotskyite Pop and J. Maybe. For some reason that comes to mind. Again, this is just Billy Zane livening up the film, having an absolute blast.
Yeah.
It's
This
so
this
good.
is my
He's so
favorite.
over
This
the
was my
top.
favorite. Even though I say I don't like the dream sequence bits, I really like this bit with him behind the bar. Like, he was really funny. I got a feeling that it wasn't in that scene with the other people though. It was almost like they shot the scene with him separate. You don't really see him on the same screen at the same time, do you? I wasn't sure. It's like it kept
Um,
cutting to him just talking to the camera, and it was as if they'd had to like reshoot it with him in or something like that. It was a bit
Yeah.
strangely set up. I don't know.
Maybe for reshooting it for Germans, who knows?
Yeah, it might have been that. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, Willie doesn't do very well. We get an amazing. Just something else I love, like making use of the rules. We're told very clearly you've got to take the demon's eyes out, and then they have
Yeah.
fun with it. Like, okay, so they go weirdly literal. Like someone gets shot in the back of the head and the eyes come out, but the eyes are intact.
Yeah.
So then they have to do a second shot at the eyes, and poor Willie, he does get decapitated, but that doesn't do the job.
Yeah.
So our little boy, who has an unfortunate future, picks up the head and neatly just punctures the. It's a
I
lovely
like that.
thing.
Yeah.
Lovely bit of practical effects. A very nice severed head there. Oh, it's glorious stuff.
Well, that Willie character, he had a big stack of money at the beginning. You know, when he pays his way in that motel, but it's almost like you say, he's sort of homeless looking, and he's an alcoholic, but he's also got this massive wad of money, and it was almost like I felt like there was sort of a backstory that they didn't get to with that guy.
I'm going to be honest, I don't remember that at all.
When he goes
Yeah.
into the motel, and she's like, you know, we don't let strangers in here, and he picks out this like massive wad of money and passes her like a note, and he's still
isn't
got
that
like
Breaker? Isn't it? I think it's Breaker that does that. Yeah. You do wonder, where does he have it? Yeah.
Is it Breaker? Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, that would have been a bit weird. I do remember what you see. Yeah, so this is oh no. Oh, I didn't even see that. Oh no. Oh dear. Good catch, Joe. All right. Oh dear. What a world. So as we say, we got a classic of Thomas Hayden Church, who gets to say wonderful things. You know, I'm not even going to say his line. I don't want it clipped. He gets some. He's a client of Cordelia's with very special interests, and he gets to deliver some very interesting lines about those interests. All part of the kind of lurid ridiculousness of the thing. He plays the heel. He does a betrayal. He pays for it and is torn apart. You know, it's all standard. It's all nice. I just thought I'd mention him. Very predictable stuff, but eventually they are all eliminated. Some of them get hero moments. It's kind of nice.
It's just like you're just going from one ridiculously gory death to another, really, aren't you? Everyone's slowly getting bumped off along the way, and in increasingly interesting ways, I think.
Yeah, it builds a momentum to it. You know where it's going. The stakes are really clear. It's going to be the Collector versus Breaker and Geraldine. Is that how we say it? Hang on. It's an odd name. Oh, Geraldine. It's an odd name. You know, Cameron Diaz was up for the role as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that would have been interesting. A little bit before she had broken through with the mask then, hadn't she?
Yeah, actually, some scenes in this reminded me of The Mask. You know, the way with the Collector guy, when you see him like dancing and doing like silly things, that really give me like Mask vibes, actually.
Popping a sponge out of his mouth.
Yeah. It really did feel like a sort of a Mask sort of scene. You know.
Yeah, it has that vibe. I mean, it all helps. Other people have said evil Ash vibes. Absolutely. It's high energy. It keeps it going. It's all nice.
Yeah.
But eventually we are whittled down to 2. And I will find my image for that. It's kind of inevitable, I think, to be honest. It's kind of inevitable. And Geraldine, after Breaker is fatally injured by the kid with a quite wonderful demon tongue to the heart move.
Yeah.
Very, very rarely seen, but, you know, appreciated.
There was a scene that I wanted to talk about a scene that's just before, slightly
please.
before this, actually, where what's her name, the lady who runs the motel, her death with the she makes like a grenade vest and sort
Yeah,
of blows herself up along with the cop.
yeah, the remaining cop. Yeah, so that's
Why did she?
CTH Powder's Irene and Gary Farmer's Deputy Bob.
Those guys.
Yeah,
I didn't
them.
get why did they need to die? I didn't. It seemed like a needless sacrifice. Like,
Yeah, I'll be with you. There's not much logic to that. It's
like, couldn't she have just thrown that grenade vest into the demons and run for it? I didn't get why she needed to sacrifice her and another person who both seemed fairly healthy, apart from one of them was missing an arm. It seemed a bit illogical, but I didn't know if I was just missing something there.
No, it seems to me like they had what they needed there, but they didn't spell it out. Like, if she had, I don't think she was physically weakening enough, but it would have been obvious if it was a sort of, if she's just lost so much blood that she says she can't go on, and they're going to try and escape, and she's like, fine, look, I'm done. I'll stay here. And then Bob wants to stay and protect her, but he doesn't exactly have a strong reason to do it. I think it's more that they just needed to get rid of some characters.
Just needed to get rid of the last two and then, just set up the final scene. Yeah. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say. It was a bit of a random scene that threw me a bit.
It's fair enough. I think I also noticed that they did that in the most low budget way possible. We just saw a flash of light from another room.
From the other side of the door, yeah.
Very cheaty indeed. Look, we've praised all the effects, but don't think you can slip that one by us.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of the grenade vest. That was quite cool, but it was, I thought it was a bit just slightly cheap, but it was okay.
Effectively, they just needed to whittle it down to two. So I found this really quite funny. And I know, Joe, maybe you'll appreciate this. It cracked me up. Oh, yeah. It's got that vibe as well. And they had everything they need to build it in. Just say Irene can't go on anymore. She's lost too much, and then Bob wants to stay with her for whatever reason. Give her a little romance angle. That'll be fine. Then you've got a reason for it. That's one line of dialogue. It's a 92-minute film. You can do it. This got unintentional laughter from me last time. How can I say? So Breaker hands over the role of protecting the icon to Geraldine, and she immediately just coats herself in the blood. And I was just like, you've had it for 2 seconds and you've wasted everything. What the heck? Like, they do let her top it up again later, but it cracked me up.
She seemed very wasteful with that blood, and like he was just sort of using a drop of it at a time, being really careful, and she was just like, right, I'm just going to douse myself with it, and then she shoves the rest of it in her mouth. So it's just weird.
It's like she thought that was a really clever tactic. He won't be able to grab me. It's like, and it doesn't work. It immediately backfires.
Yeah,
I just thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, it's very metaphorical as well, wasn't it? The anointing in the blood of Christ or whatever.
Yeah, she's had a criminal past, and this is literally washed in the blood of Christ, so redeemed. It's around Christmas. We are talking that way a little bit. It's fine.
Yeah.
But it was also quite funny in, oh dear, how can I say? Some people will make a spicier reading about this great inheritance being handed over and then immediately wasted. I, on this channel, would obviously never make a reading like that, but it was funny. Especially as Billy Zane just immediately dumps her in the bath and washes it off. It's an interesting idea. It's messing with the formula. I'm not sure it was the most sensible writing choice.
Yeah, I mean, it's just sort of showing that she's thinks outside the box or something like that. You know?
Yeah, I do feel it's an interesting variant that they tried. But yeah, it did create obvious tension that okay, he so easily got around the problem.
Mm.
But then I felt like it cheated by letting her immediately replenish all the blood after she's had to tip all of it away.
Yeah.
And I'd say it's a weakness of the film, you know, the bit where he tries to seduce her again, he's dancing with her, she's kept it in her mouth. I did feel that bit just went on a bit too long.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. I thought she was going to like kiss him and spit the blood into his mouth. I thought that would have been nice.
Yeah. The payoff was lovely. The effect of him sort of imploding from the inside I thought was really well done. It was hello Gatsby. I don't know, is anyone picking that up?
That noise, you can't. Yeah,
Yeah, good.
I can hear Gatsby.
All right, folks. Pats for Gats in the chats. There he is. Bless him. He's been so calm all night, but yeah.
Yeah, it was a good effect. The melting and all the gore and stuff falling to the floor.
It's such a lovely payoff. It's so nice. I love it, but it is. I do feel that was. Oh, thank you very much. Whiskey's arrived. Lovely.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's that bit of you've got to mess with the stakes. You've got to for the tension. You've got to alter who is the upper hand. You know, you do the variant of you know, she's in charge, so she has an innovative strategy, but then he overcomes it, so she's on the low again, and then she has to innovate to get around. You know, that's all classic.
Yeah,
but I do feel it dragged out a bit.
Only a little bit, yeah. That whole seduction scene, but like I say, I found a lot of the seduction scenes that way, just because it was all just slightly one removed for me, and I just wanted to get back to the killings.
Yeah, and yeah, as people have pointed out, it is interesting with a kind of you can read it as a symbology. Now, obviously, you know, it's interesting to think about what was intended here. If this were made, yeah, it's hard to know what analysis is appropriate for the time something is made. Like if this film had come out in 2020, they would write certain things a bit different, and you would read something a lot more about, you know, a white man passing on the role to a diverse, you know, woman of color.
Yeah.
It's hard to know if that was really intended in the 90s. Hello, Gatsby.
You've probably read the same things as me, but there was another script proposed where that was way more heavy-handed, that aspect of it, and it was much more about like oppression, and I can't remember.
The Mary Lambert script.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it was much more sort of heavy-handed, and it didn't go ahead. But that was maybe part of that made it through into this script. I don't know.
It is an odd one. It is a very odd one. One of the worst things about this is you can feel paranoid, and you don't know. Like, you know, now it would be very, very remarked upon, and it wouldn't be hard actually, because the script would just tell you.
Yeah.
The script would just literally have a bunch of people delivering speeches, telling you the direct politics.
Yeah,
you know?
I got that feeling watching that Scream 6 trailer. Actually, I started to wonder, like, I wonder if they're going in that direction, because, you know, I was sort of wondering if the guy was going to rip off his Scream mask and say, "This is MAGA country" or something like that. After stabbing someone.
Mindy was just out for a Subway. Yeah, it was late. You know?
Yeah, it would be much more heavy-handed today.
Scream has remained blessedly free of that
for now.
But you can go kind of into the weeds on whether the reboot was intending that stuff, and it's one of the areas I disagree on with a few people. Like, there's a bit which is very, how can I say it, like on message. I'll keep it spoiler free. The killer's motivation is stated, and it's very on message, and I just disagree that you're meant to take that literally versus seeing it as a kind of parody or like an obviously ridiculous talking point. So I don't know. It depends whether you take the killer's motivation literally or not. But unfortunately,
that's in the reboot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen that.
The character on the train. So the what would you say now? Biracial girl with the short hair, Mindy. She's the niece of Randy from the original Scream. And my biggest problem was that she praises Jordan Peele, because I just kind of feel like she'd be sharper on the horror movie analysis, and she wouldn't just like the big hits. I thought she would like more obscure stuff, but I'm getting really into the weeds now. Yeah, it's so a lot of the stuff. Since we're on the topic, I think just like when you have a cast like this, and you've got a cast like the Scream 5, it's like what are the tensions is you just don't know if someone is like very actively trying to push something on you.
Yeah.
And it's something where even if you wouldn't care, it's just a sense of discomfort over whether a message is being pushed on you or not. And that's what you would feel weird about.
Yeah. That's a kind of nice thing about watching old movies, I think. I feel much more that even if they do have a message, it's almost like they're not. I don't know what it is about modern movies, but it's just the way it's almost like they're forcing it on you to the detriment of the film itself, and it's almost like they're doing it in a way to sort of say, like, haha, look, I've put this message in this movie and you're going to hate this. Whereas in an old film like this, I feel like if there's any message, it's almost like a Christian one, but it's not like they're trying to trick you with it. It's not like they're trying to like force it in. It's just like it's there as part of the story, and it sort of works with the story itself.
Yeah, I'd say if there's a message in here, it's the sort of 90s girl boss one.
Yeah.
That's the main message of the time. Like, if you there was a big pressure in the mid 90s to do the girl boss thing after the sort of success of Aliens, the success of T2. So you got things that were quite weird,
like the remake of Night of the Living Dead.
Oh, that's exactly where I was going to go. Yeah, exactly what I was going to say. Just suddenly Barbara is a bit of a badass, and it's it was just there. I mean, yeah, Joe, this is a fine point. This is actually a fine point, and it's something that you almost want them to be more blatant. But then this is why I make videos where I do point out the more subtle messaging. Yeah, but I think the main thing they were working on here was the girl boss angle, to be honest with you, versus something like the original Night of the Living Dead, where George Romero didn't have a wide slate of people to work with, and so he literally cast who he could, and he thought that the guy for Ben was just the best guy. Yeah, and it's not really something that he carried on outside of the Living Dead series. Like, he didn't do it in his other movies, so I do get the feeling that he was like being very honest and just being very meritocratic there.
Yeah.
Anyway, we have the ending. We have a rather wonderful death for our collector, and we get very much assured that everything goes on. Oh, and we also saw that Geraldine gets to take her cat as well. That's a nice ending. I appreciated that.
Yeah, the cat wasn't possessed. Although I would have liked to have seen a nice animatronic sort of transformation of the cat into some kind of demon creature. That was I was slightly waiting for that to happen, but
Maybe
it's still nice that the cat survived. So
we could still have an animatronic cat, if they just pop over and borrow Salem from
Salem,
Clarissa the Teenage Witch, just
yeah,
can we just
yeah. But
have him for an afternoon?
I would have liked to see his head suddenly transform into a demonic thing, and no, that would have been cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like seeing the animal survive as well. So
It could be nice. It's a nice ending. It's what you expect, and the stakes are set up. And because the rules have been good, we have been pretty darn clear. We appreciate what's going on.
Yeah.
And the other thing, this new collector is following her, and as he sets off to follow the bus, he starts whistling the theme to Tales from the Crypt.
Oh, is that what that was? Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, that's what a little treat for fans of the show.
I knew I recognized the song. Yeah. So I wasn't sure if it was, like I say, I wasn't sure if the collector was like the embodiment of the devil, and he'd like just possessed another body, or whether it was they're all like different, demons or what.
Yeah, and I would just assume it's different demons and demon henchmen, because then you've got like someone working for God and you've got someone working for the devil.
Yeah.
So they're put up against each other, and it's a nice parallel.
It was just like the seduction scenes made it seem much more like he was like the actual devil in a way. The way he was talking, the way he was saying like, you've just got to let me in. It was almost like he was supposed to be the devil at that point. But I wasn't sure.
Yeah, it does match. It does match a bit more, but yeah, I think it's just a henchman. So it's a nice ending.
Yeah. Was it set? Do you think it was setting up for a sequel, or because I know they already had another film in the works, but it was almost like, they had another film planned that probably didn't follow on from this, but it was almost like with these two characters going off into the sunset at the end, it was almost like they were setting up that there could be a sequel with these two.
Interesting. I think the first guess is right, that they were just intending to move on and they were happy to leave it as is.
Yeah.
Don't you miss the days when it wasn't all sequels all the time?
Yeah, but I suppose like they could have had it in mind. Like I say, at the end of the film, he just say like, tune in for the next Crypt Keeper movie or whatever he says. But maybe they had it in mind like, oh well, if people really love these characters and want more of it, we could bring them back and make a sequel or something along those lines.
Maybe play it safe. Unfortunately, it just I don't know if it did badly at all. I mean, it seemed to be okay. It's certainly a cult fit. I mean, look at that. Yeah, budget 12 million, box office 21.1 million. They definitely did it. They got their money. But yeah, it's
So why didn't they make the other one then? The other one they had in the works, if this one did well?
Yeah, I just genuinely don't know. I've looked into it. I can't find anything detailed enough.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm thinking of is that they were still producing the show at the time, and they filmed this in the break between seasons. So if that was the model they were going for, they've got a very difficult production schedule.
Yeah.
And it's going to be difficult to sort of get the same team on. So that's what I'm thinking of. But I mean, Bordello of Blood, I think I actually got this wrong. I said, oh yeah, I did get it wrong. Bordello of Blood actually came out the next year.
Right.
But I suspect that flopping didn't do it. It's just the difficulty for them would be, which story do you do? Which would be suitable for the big screen treatment?
Yeah.
When they're so used to doing short, snappy stories.
But they had like a zombie movie in the works, wasn't it? I can't remember what he says at the end of the credits. He comes out and he says, "Tune in for And he doesn't say bordello of blood. He says something
No,
else.
it's a different one. It was Fat Tuesday, or what was it? One of its titles was Fat Tuesday.
Yeah, that's not what he says. Something else, but yeah, that was
Dead
one of the words.
Easy.
Dead
Dead
Easy.
Yeah.
And I think that was supposed to be like a zombie movie
Mm.
in a city or something. So
Potentially they couldn't get the right script for it. That'll just be the problem, is which story do you use? I mean, as we saw,
yeah,
this script was just bouncing around before it got picked up as and turned into a Tales from the Crypt movie.
yeah,
Which is really common. Saw 2 was not a Saw movie, but it was retrofitted, and Spiral from the Book of Saw was, I think, absolutely blatantly retrofitted into a Saw movie, even though it was kind of to almost return to the topic, I think it was I think big name actors really wanted to make something that was a bit of a Black Lives Matter movie, as close to that movement as possible. And I think Lionsgate basically must have said, look, if you want to do that, that's cool, but we need to tie it into something a bit more marketable. So they just made it into a Saw movie, even though it's kind of an awkward fit. It's a very weird movie, I've got to say. But Chris Rock does a really good job at acting it, but it's just very weird to see Chris Rock in a horror.
I quite like Chris Rock.
He's good. He's got Samuel L. Jackson plays his dad, and you kind of get the feeling that they went massively off script in their scenes, because it's just absolutely hilarious stuff. Like, you just feel it was all ad-libbed.
I hadn't heard of that film. Spiral
from the Book of Saw.
No, that's completely passed me by.
I can't say you missed anything.
A Saw movie with Chris Rock.
It's
L.
weird.
Jackson.
It's so weird, but yeah, I think it was generally just something with an activist message that they said, look, we have to attach it to something to make it marketable.
Yeah.
It's an odd little film. I'll also pick up here the Enria. Thank you for the £5. Yes, super chat for Gatsby, and that is exactly what he sounds like every night. I think that's going to have to go to a treat for him. I think he's going to have a little bit of a tuna loin for that one. He will appreciate it. He's a little fiend for butter. He absolutely loves it. He's all over the butter these days. Oh, he's a fiend for it. My chickens like butter as well. It's the weirdest thing.
It's weird.
I know. And she's in the chat. Hello, Years. Good to see you. Good to see you. Check tomorrow. There will be a link for all members for the Craft Legacy video. So that should keep you over the Christmas period. It's an absolute beast of analysis. I think you'll love it. But good to see you. Merry Christmas. In fact, is it a bit early? I think we can still say Merry Christmas to everyone. I'm going to say it next week anyway. But
it's not too early to say that. Merry Christmas. It's well into the month now. We're getting
excellent.
Close.
I've been looking forward to it the whole time. So all the cooking, man. Anyway, that is. I think that brings us to the end of Tales from the Crypt. There is a little coda at the end to really bookend it in the style that the series does.
Yeah,
not taking itself too seriously. Yes, Crypt Keeper arrives at the premiere and then is decapitated.
Yeah,
shameless.
I'd love to see a movie with him, like serious, like instead of like the campy Crypt Keeper. But that model, I think, is so creepy looking that it would make a good like horror movie. I don't know how you'd use him, but
yeah, I don't know. He's fun in small doses, but I absolutely, it's so weird. I love it.
Like, imagine if he wasn't cracking bad puns constantly and he just was sort of chasing someone through a spooky mansion with an axe.
That's all I
or
want.
something.
I just want the puns.
That'd be quite good.
I'm all about the puns. Well, that brings us to an end, I'd say. Would folks, you can get your scores in now, and I think we'll just move on to our closing thoughts. So, Shrouded, Would you like to give your closing thoughts and score for Tales from the Crypt Demon Knight?
Okay, well, I was pleasantly surprised because I'd completely misremembered this movie as something that I didn't enjoy. But watching it back, I really did enjoy it. I don't know what score we'd give it. Is it still 12 burgers out of 12?
Yeah, we're sticking with the 12 burger system.
It's such a weird number. It's such a hard number. Like, it's not round. Like, it's just weird. 12. Okay. Maybe I'd give it 8.5, let's say. I quite enjoyed it. It was nice and schlocky. Lots of good death in there. Loads of nice killings. Really liked the effects. Kept up the pace. I wouldn't say it was a masterpiece, but yeah, I enjoyed it. And I can't think of much else to say about it, really. It's a nice fun romp with a lot of. It's got a good pace to it as well. Yeah, I like the sets as well. I didn't really say. I really like the sort of setting of the old church, and like the interior was very interesting. I thought I like that whole thing.
It was a nice design, and you know they knew to keep you moving all over the place. You know, you have a bit where you go to the mines, you go to the attic. They keep you moving.
Yeah,
So even if the
it's
story's
mostly
simple, you're entertained.
You're sort of staying in one building for most of it, but it keeps you bouncing around from bits and pieces, and it's just people getting bumped off in interesting ways, and I enjoyed it.
We're seeing 7 burgers, 8.5. So that feels like, you know, that sounds to me like 8.5. Would that be just like if someone says it's good, you'd be like, yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
You're not desperate to rewatch it, but you've had a fun time.
I'd watch it now and then. I'd say like it's a kind of film that if I was flicking through the channels and it was on the TV, I'd think, oh, should I watch this? I haven't seen this for a while. I might give it a go. It's quite fun. I'll just sit back, have a drink, enjoy it. But I don't know if I would like seek it out on a streaming service. I wouldn't think, oh, I'm really in the mood to watch this now. I'll seek it out purposefully and watch it.
Yeah, I could go with that. If I wanted something with this energy, I probably would reach for something like Evil Dead 2 first.
Yeah,
That's
Evil
probably
Dead.
what I'd go for if I was in the mood for that.
Or even like something with this level of schlock. Do you know the movie? Is it just called Demons? It's like an Italian movie.
We're going to be covering it next year. It's we're doing a whole month on Dario Argento.
Yeah,
So,
well, this
or is it Argento?
It'll probably remind you of this. I don't know either.
Okay.
But it'll probably remind you of this. But it's like it's almost like this, but slightly less humor, and it's just the gore is just turned up to a ridiculous degree. So.
Oh my goodness, I preferred the humor though. That's what I came for. Yeah. So I think we're seeing that. I can understand there is
0 burgers. Come on, it's got something going for it, surely.
I think I can like the subversion lens. How can I say the subversion analysis has a heck of a lot of evidence for it. But I mean, I'm just wondering if Mary Lambert got her way. It's so weird because I really love her Pet Sematary, and I'm now. It's weird to think that she proposed something that was like very, very The Message, you know?
Yeah, but this
I just didn't have that read of her, you know?
But something with The Message back then probably, you know, it might not have the same, you know, like these days, something like that comes out and it kind of gets a bit of an eye roll in response because it's so heavy-handed. Maybe something back then, it might have got a different response. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be.
But there's lots. There's other films that were plans to have very heavy. Do you know? What's that movie called? It's like a slasher film, and the name slips my mind. And it was supposed to be like this feminist comment on slasher films and sort of misogyny and
Oh
all
my
that.
gosh, was it called Cherry Falls?
No, it wasn't that. It was
Oh,
I can't remember the name of it.
Sorority Row?
No, I can't remember the name. But anyway, it got sort of completely dumbed down and made into this silly like slasher film, and I think it's better for it, to be honest. I wouldn't have wanted to watch a heavy-handed feminist critique movie of slasher movies, but that was sort of around the same era, I think.
All the Boys Love Mandy Lane.
No, I can't remember the name of it.
Oh, Shrouded, you're killing
It's on
me
the
here,
tip
my
of,
dude.
it's on the tip of my tongue.
Okay, all right. I won't. Trying to coax
It
it,
might
out
be,
is only going to make it worse.
Yeah. Oh man.
Don't strain yourself. Don't worry. Okay, so I'll do my closing thoughts.
Okay.
It's, I think, for bringing Tales from the Crypt to the big screen, I admire how little it changes the vision. Fills up its time very nicely. A brisk 92 minutes. I very much appreciate that. That's lovely. No time wasting. Maybe padded slightly with the dream sequences and slightly with that finale, that seduction scene that I think just didn't quite work for me. If you're looking for the padding, you can see it. Like the mine sequence is largely padding, but it does give you a new location, get you moving around, which is pretty sensible. Overall, it's got good chaotic energy, creative gore, good use of storytelling without giving you massive exposition dumps, and I really, really appreciate that. And I have a personal weakness for the kind of excruciating puns that go into here. So and of course, all driven by Billy Zane's performance. So I've got a big liking for this. I would probably rate it a bit higher, although it's a quite light on substance. So I probably come up probably about a 9. But I'm rating that quite heavily because of it. It's a kind of thing I like. I like a light and breezy thing. I was quite fond of Brain Dead. I'm fond of Evil Dead 2. So I like that kind of energy. Oh no, hang on. Is this real? Fez. Is Mandy Lane? Sorry, is Amber Heard in Mandy Lane? That would be no, isn't it Mandy Moore? Have I got that wrong? I have to know. I'm looking this up right now. Oh no, it actually is Amber Heard. That's crazy. Oh my gosh. How's that for some deep lore? That's looking pretty awkward now, isn't it? Like them almost casting O.J. Simpson and the Terminator. Woof, woo-wee. All right. Well,
I remember the name of that movie. It was Slumber Party Massacre.
Oh my goodness! I haven't seen it.
Yeah, you should watch it. It's really dumb, but if you watch it with the idea that it was supposed to be like a parody, you see like extra things in it.
I might be tempted. I know A24 has put out a couple of things that look like they're trying to do that energy you talked about, like bodies. I think was meant to have that kind of thing, but I saw that in the advert and I thought, I don't know if I fancy checking that out. But well, yeah, 8.5 and a 9. I think that's pretty fair. I think chat was largely in that area. I think oh sorry, Eddie, I missed that one. 7. Yeah, we got a 7 there.
With no buns. There was plenty of buns in this movie.
Yeah, there was some great big buns, lovely baps.
Yeah.
9, yeah, a base 12, yeah. I think a 7 again, and yes, Joe, yeah, I can see where you're coming from on that. I also massively agree. John Carpenter was channeling Crypt Keeper energy and body bags, and it is a weird performance, but captivating. Anyway, with that all said and done, I think that is us for tonight. So coming forward, there should be a stream on Monday. That is going to be Waifu reading M.R. James Ghost Stories for Christmas. That'll be a short one, should be fun. And I will drop the Christmas special next week as soon as I can. I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to leave a massive thank you to Shrouded Hand for guesting on this. Much appreciated. Always
All
good to
right,
have you
thanks for
back.
having me on. It's been fun. Thanks for refreshing my memory of this film into something more positive.
I'm glad to have done that. And chat, it was a good discussion in there. So there'll be plenty going on next week, and I'll see you there. But I will leave off now by saying thank you all. Cheers.
Bye.